Okay, my friends, welcome. So the idea today is to talk a bit about the overall mind-body journey, because you've heard, I'm sure, plenty of stories of people who've been very successful using meditation or movement arts or various techniques to really shift what's going on for them in terms of their pain, their brain fog, their fatigue, their disability, their overall sense of empowerment and ability to live a meaningful and purposeful life despite a diagnosis of fibromyalgia or chronic pain or even chronic fatigue or arthritis or other conditions that can be so debilitating. And so what's the answer? Why is it that some people can be very successful but others not so much? And it shows up in the research too, because we've got lots of research at this point, looking at things like meditation and mindfulness and visual imagery, looking at things like yoga, tai chi, qigong, that are showing significant benefits as a whole for the group. But we know that a group is a group is comprised of individuals. And whenever you look at research where it's a positive effect, there are some people who might not have a positive effect and some people who do. And on average, when they say it helps, it means there's an average positive effect. So what separates success from failure? It's a really important thing to understand. So I want to try to speak to that in the next few minutes. I encourage you to share whatever questions are up for you. Put them right there in the comments section, and I'll either see them and respond to them during this conversation, or I'll come back to them later. But really do put your questions in there. The other thing I want you just to be aware of is that I'm going to be reopening this program that I developed called Movement Towards Health, which is a whole set of mind-body and body-mind tools to help you if you're kind of stuck with that chronic pain, fatigue, mood disturbance, anxiety, can't do the stuff you want to do, and you want to get to that place of having more empowerment and being more in charge of your health and being able to do the stuff you care about without being afraid you're going to get wiped out from it. To be able to have tools so you can deal with difficult life circumstances. So if a fibro flare starts coming on or a pain flare, you actually have tools to shift your biology and stop it. It is possible. So anyhow, I'm going to keep talking. If you're interested in that, I encourage you to go to the information page if you haven't already. You can sign up there and you'll get some interesting information about the program, about the process, what we do. And there's also a couple of free sessions that are happening in the next week or two where you can participate in a sample class. It's the whole sample class that we do. It's meditation, it's discussion, it's group coaching. We learn some anatomy. We do some movement arts that are kind of like tai chi, yoga, qigong type of things. And these are all things that I've found incredibly helpful in helping people who have serious, difficult chronic pain and disabling conditions. So check that stuff out. All right, let's jump into the topic at hand. So what is this mind-body journey? And what I want to suggest to you is that there's three aspects of it. And those three aspects of it all need to work together. And I see a lot of people doing one aspect or maybe two aspects, but they're missing a part of it. So I want to unpack that so you can see it and understand it. And so imagine you have three circles that are interconnecting with each other. I like images like that because they help you sort of understand the relationships. But one circle we're going to call slow, right? This next circle we're going to call know, like K-N-O-W, knowledge. The third circle we're going to call flow. And slow, know, and flow are the three aspects of the mind-body journey. Let me explain that to you. Slow is the thing that everyone's kind of heard of. You turn on that relaxation response. You slow down that overactive fight, flight, freeze response. If you don't know what these things are, I encourage you to look into it a bit more. Look for stuff on my page. Send me an email, whatever it is. Send me an instant message and go, hey, I've never heard about this stuff. I'll send you some stuff to watch because you need to know about this, right? You got this brain within your brain. It's a nervous system within your nervous system. It touches every bit of your body. And it polarizes your system towards rest, digest, and heal, or fight, flight, freeze. Fight, flight, freeze is the danger response. It's your body and mind perceiving something's dangerous and creating a whole set of biological reactions like inflammation and stress, and changes all your biology and contributes to worsening pain and chronic illness. And slow means turning that process down, dialing it back towards the relaxation, rest, digest, and heal response. And you can do that. There's well-known physiology. Everyone can learn techniques to do that. It's not that hard. You might have to do it the right way, but you can do it. So that's slow. And slow is great, but it's not enough. And some people talk as if it is enough because, that's the thing we measure the most. And so there's all these studies looking at measuring vagal tone and measuring the relaxation response in various different methods and showing, this helps with your health and well-being. And if you're going to take a really narrowly defined evidence approach, you're going to say, well, that's what you have to do because that's what the evidence shows. But it's a broader picture than that. Not everything that we count is what's most important, and there's things that count that can't be counted. And that's this next part. Next part is no, right? And you could use a word like mindfulness for no, although I think it's kind of gotten cheapened, that word, in recent years, and people often use it in a way that misses the richness of what really being mindful can do for you. Mindfulness is about awareness and knowledge. And it can be about awareness and connecting to the really good, yummy, wonderful things in life. And that's healing. It's really important. And a lot of kind of simplistic approaches to mindfulness are all about, really taste your food and appreciate the sense of walking and, see the sunlight in the morning, gaze in the face of your child. All these things that you can do that are really about generating positivity, positive emotion, positive beliefs. Really important. I'm not putting that down at all. But there's this deeper aspect, which I'd prefer to call compassionate presence and awareness, which is when you learn to meet yourself in all of your experiences, all of your automatic, reactive patterns of thought and speech and action. And you let your awareness and your compassion just drop in there. It's a very different way of knowing than most of us are conditioned. We get conditioned to think about. And compassionate presence is about experiencing. It's about touching the experience with your mind, with your heart, with your body, with all of you. And on the surface, it's kind of hard to understand, but it's profoundly transformative. So let me just touch on that. And let's get also to the last one, which is flow, right? So there's slow and no, like knowing, and then flow. And flow is basically taking that quiet, calm physiology and taking that compassionate, aware presence and bringing it into the world, bringing it into your activities, walking with it day to day. Because, if you sit down on a meditation cushion or lie down on the floor and do some kind of quieting meditation for 10 or 20 minutes, and if you do that every day, it can have a very positive effect on you. But suppose you do this whole picture and you do these periods of practice that really bring you into quiet, but you also do these exercises and training around just being present to what's happening and noticing the tendency to split reality into what's good and what's bad, to kind of in a reactive, unconscious way, like push stuff away and run away from what's unpleasant and try to hold on to what's so pleasant. And there's this deeper way of connecting with what really is, that is no. And as you do it, what happens is the things inside of you, the unconscious things that generate the angst. Let me give an example of this, because talking about it can be so suppose you get quiet and you meditate and you feel good. And I've heard this from probably a few hundred people. I feel so good when I meditate. And then I go back to work and my boss walks by and looks at me, or my spouse, or my kid, or my parent, or whoever it is, my teacher. I have that experience that pushes the button. And then all of a sudden, something's coming out of me and I feel irritated or I feel angry, or I'm in a conversation with someone and They say something to me and I say something I wish I hadn't. And I'm like, why did I say that? Oh my gosh, I just made things worse. I hurt this person's feelings. I hurt my own relationship with them because I said something that wasn't nice or that was obnoxious or reactive or defensive. Like, why do we do that? And take that into your body for a second and think about this, right? That everything you do starts from inside of you. It starts with thought, speech, and action. Your thought, speech, and action are moving out into the world. And you're expressing yourself. And a lot of that's coming from an unconscious place. A lot of it's, in most of us, is coming from a place that is reactive and conditioned, where we're automatically, in response to our external environment, in response to how we feel inside, we're having a reaction. And that reaction can be scattered, difficult, angry, scared, sad thoughts. And it can be emotional responses like frustration or anger or sadness. And it can be physiologic responses. It can be what's going on in your intestine, what's happening in your immune system. All these different aspects of your body that automatic, not just your body, but your body, your physical actions, your emotional responses, your intellectual, mental responses, those just fire off. And that's part of what creates stress. That's part of what turns on that fight, flight, freeze response. It's that unconscious stuff that just comes out of you. Okay, so I'm talking about this in the context of learning to just be present and learning to observe, learning to be aware without judging it. It's training. It doesn't happen overnight. But almost everybody that I've trained and worked with this in this way learns over time to be a bit less reactive, less self-blaming, less self-hating, less cynical and irritable, and to be able to actually just be in life with more ease. And that translates into your body, the cells of your body, living in a biology of ease, living in a biology of comfort and safety. And that has an influence on all the disease processes. All the difficult stuff that you're dealing with is fired by this stress response, which is so often driven by unconscious reactive patterns. Okay, so that's a whole huge topic I opened up, and we could talk about it for hours. We could do exercises and practice for hours. That's part of what we do in Movement Towards Health. So we really work on that. We really work on how to become aware of where you're living from. When you learn to sense and be aware of if you're living from a place of fear, of anger, of sadness, of trying to be in control, of trying to get other people's approval, when you start to just see it and you go, oh my gosh, I don't want to live from that place. I want to live from love. I want to live from joy. I want to be connected to my heart that's caring and loving, that wants to actually do something good in the world. And I want that to express through me, not the fear and the reactivity and the blame and all of that. And that is trainable. You learned how to be exactly how you've been through your life experiences since you were a little kid. And you can bring consciousness to it. And it's not about beating yourself up. And it's not about going and analyzing and thinking, oh yeah, that person did this thing to me and that's why I'm like this. No, it's meeting yourself in the moment. And when you actually do it, it becomes this really wondrous process and you just start to feel more free. So let's leave that for a second. But let's go into the realm of flow, right? Slow, know, and flow. Flow is moving, right? And there's a lot of different ways to move that are calming and quieting. And I recently put up a post about like walking meditation and got a lot of great feedback and messages and comments about like, yeah, I walk my dog on the beach and it's so great. And it's awesome. Like walking in nature is amazing, whether it's the beach or the forest or the park in the city, being around trees. There's actually research showing that exercise done in nature has more benefit than exercise done in the gym. It's a real thing. Nature's healing. Being in nature, no matter what you're doing, is great. Do it, But there's this other level of moving in a meditative way. of taking that awareness that's present, that's just here, and letting it come into your body, and letting yourself move with quiet, and feeling yourself move through space, feeling your breathing, unifying your breathing with your movements. This is why I teach exercises that are derived from Tai Chi and Qigong, because that's what those masters figured out. You know, I'm not into the philosophical Eastern stuff, but they have a system of teaching us how to move as one unit. The mind, the emotions, the breathing, and the body. And it is profound. And I'm saying that based on, like 20 or 30 years of studying and practicing. Back in the day when I used to train for hours, and it just shifted my whole reality. And this overall process, and this overall process of slow and know and flow, they all sort of fit together. It doesn't have to be Tai Chi. It can be yoga classes taught in the right way. It can be Feldenkrais awareness through movement classes. It can be Pilates taught in the right way. There's even some very good physical therapists. I shouldn't say even in a diminishing way. I have a huge respect for my physical therapy colleagues. Amazing what they do for people. And there are some therapists who have really brought in these principles of presence and awareness and mindfulness and compassion into movement training. What my perception is after, like a couple of decades of rehabilitation medicine, studying rehabilitation science, studying how our emotional centers are connected to our movement centers and the arousal centers, like everything is one unit, your entire body. And you can do all this sitting meditation and get to this deep place of quiet, which is slow. And you can also do sitting meditation and awareness and really come to presence and calm and compassion sitting. And those are great. But when you bring it into movement, you're accessing the movement centers of the brain and you're bringing them into that consciousness. The movement centers of the brain are intimately connected with your emotional centers, with the trauma, with the arousal centers, right? Your movement is how your body gets away. If you're in danger, get up and go fight, flight, freeze. Trauma is locked into the body. I'm not going to say it's locked into muscle because I think that's a bunch of garbage. That's what lots of body workers say because they're working on the body and they work on the body and they get an emotional release. Oh yeah, the emotions in the body. Come on, let's get with the times. The times show us integration. Our brain scans that we have these days show us how all these areas of the body are firing off simultaneously. If you've been through a traumatic experience, that trauma is typically seared into your neural network that involves the center of arousal and fight, flight, freeze. It involves your emotional centers. It involves your beliefs about yourself. And yes, it involves this incredibly exquisite three-dimensional map of your body, which your movement system uses to help move you through space. Trauma is locked into your being. And by moving with fluidity, gentleness, joy, openness, compassion, presence, you transform that. Okay, so there's so much to say about this. If you have questions, if you have comments, I really hope that you share them. I'm going to talk in more depth about these individual topics in various Facebook Lives coming up. I encourage you to get on my email list. There's various posts on my page where you can sign up for my email community. It's a good idea because you get notification about these things when they happen as opposed to last minute. And I want to encourage you to go deeper into these topics because each one is important. Learning to slow, bringing on that physiology and relaxation. A lot of techniques for doing that. Really important. Doing it regularly. And then developing that compassionate presence of just being with what is happening. The tree of life, if you're thinking about, scriptural sources that talk about spirituality and how the mind and the body and the soul are so connected with each other. And then flow, which is moving in stillness, moving with presence. A lot of ways to do all of these things, but doing all of them is so important to the overall healing and recovery process. I wish you lots of blessing in the process, that you should be successful, you should have healing, a complete healing of body, mind, and spirit. I encourage you to check out Movement Towards Health if you haven't. You can get more information by going to the information page, mthtribe.com. And we're doing some free sample sessions in the next couple of weeks in the context of this short enrollment period. So I encourage you to take advantage of those. Those will be on Facebook, but it's a much richer experience if you join the Zoom. I'm doing it on Zoom and sending it to Facebook. If you sign up on the info page, you'll actually get the Zoom link, and that way you can actually ask real-time questions. We're going to practice and do some stuff, and it's going to be like, okay, question and answer, let's talk, live, audio, as opposed to Facebook, where you're like, and maybe I see it, maybe I don't. So let's have conversations about this. Let's talk about it. Feel free to send me a PM, leave comments, leave questions. I'm here to be of service to you. Let me know how I can. Thanks so much.